Hello Cyclone fans, this is Jamie Pollard, your Director of Athletics. Today I have the exciting opportunity to share with you the first preview of what CyTown is going to look like. What I'm going to do today is share with you an overview of the project, talk about the buildings, and then look at the space in between all of the buildings. As most of you probably are aware, several weeks ago the Board of Regents approved the CyTown project and bringing on Goldenrod Companies of Omaha to be the master developer for the project. That's a very important step in the overall process of developing the CyTown project. But today, what we want to show you is what Goldenrod plans to do in the 90+ acre site between Jack Trice Stadium, Hilton Coliseum, and the Iowa State Center buildings. So we're going to go through a PowerPoint of slides that will help you get a better orientation of the project and a better understanding of what you can expect and when. So the orientation of CyTown is very similar to what you've seen in the past. It will extend from just north of Jack Trice Stadium all the way up to Center Drive. Then we'll cross over Center Drive and we'll connect Hilton Coliseum, Sheeman, and Stevens Auditorium with a new hotel and a convention center. As we look to go and say, what is inside this master plan? It's a 94-acre site that already had 5 essential major entertainment type buildings. They will add 8 additional buildings, roughly 575,000 square feet of vertical space. That space will include roughly a 200-room hotel that'll be attached to Sheeman and Hilton. It'll have over 60 what we'll call suites or resident suites that our donors, our alums will have the ability to be able to lease from the university. It'll have almost 70,000 square feet of retail space, 90,000 square feet of office space. We'll have very unique and great food and beverage opportunities, and then we'll also have what we think is the crown jewel, a roughly 3,000 seat amphitheater. So let's go in and look at some of those buildings. We're going to start with what I think is going to be the most iconic piece of the CyTown project, and that is the Sukup Silo. A big thanks to a long-time partner of Iowa State University, the Sukup family and Sukup Manufacturing. The silo will sit just south of Center Drive. It'll face back towards Jack Trice Stadium and will be an incredible opportunity for us to host concerts, pep rallies, any kind of outdoor event. The facility will have tremendous visual from these master video boards that'll not only be behind the stage, but will flank both sides of the Sukup Silo. We really look at this as being a major attraction to bring people to the CyTown space outside of the normal events, football, basketball, and all the events that we have at the Iowa State Center. This, we believe, will be a crown jewel of this project. In addition, there'll be a new hotel. The hotel will be connected by Skywalk to Hilton. It'll be connected to Sheeman, and it'll extend out into the far south side of the Sheeman building. The hotel will be branded the Cardinal. It'll be a Marriott property. It'll be a roughly 200-room property that'll be 7 stories high with a rooftop bar patio area. It'll have parking on the main level underneath a plaza that will create almost like an indoor parking area, but at grade, because the entrance of the hotel will actually be on the same level as Hilton Coliseum. This property will be managed and operated very similar to some other Goldenrod hotels. One of them in particular is called the Scarlet at the University of Nebraska that several of us got to go visit and stay at. And it'll be completely branded an Iowa State property, although it'll be a Marriott property. There'll be many food and beverage opportunities throughout the entire project. However, there'll be a destination standalone food and beverage operation on the far southeast corner, which we'll say is the gateway or the entryway into CyTown. It'll be a 15,000 square foot facility, 2 levels. It'll have an outdoor patio on the upper level, and it'll have a patio down on the ground level. And it'll be basically the front door as people come to enjoy CyTown. In addition, it'll have nearly 90,000 square feet of office space. There'll be 2 buildings, both with 3 levels of office space above retail on the ground level. That is a big, important element of this project, because what we have to be able to do to make CyTown really viable is bring other people throughout the day, 24/7, 365 days a year. It can't just be football games and basketball games and events at Iowa State Center. And so having offices brings more people there throughout the day. In addition, as I mentioned, we'll have a very unique residence suite opportunity. There'll be 2 buildings, roughly 30 units in each building. There'll be 2 to 3 bedroom units, roughly around 1,600 square feet. They'll have balconies either overlooking the CyTown Plaza or balconies extending out towards the Alumni Center. We look at these as really unique opportunities for our alums, our constituents, to have a place on campus when they come back for football games, basketball games, alumni events, that they'd be able to stay. So we really look forward to selling those over the next 6 months to our fans and donors. In addition, as many have heard before, our first anchor tenant is McFarland Clinics. The McFarland Clinic will be a 75,000 square foot facility, 3 levels. It'll have urgent care, pediatrics, family practice. It'll have orthopedics and physical therapy, which will be really important for our student athletes. But it will be a great asset for not only Iowa State students, Iowa State faculty and staff, and our athletics program, but the community at large, because this will be the primary space for McFarland Clinic to serve Central Iowa. So now let's go in and look at the spaces between the buildings, because that's just as important as the buildings themselves. And Goldenrod has done an amazing job of laying this out in a way that connects each of the areas through what they call celebrate, play, shop, gather, and ultimately perform. And as we go into those, we want to show just a little highlight of what that will look and feel like. As you cross the road from Jack Trice Stadium and come into the CyTown project, we call that the celebratory area. Obviously, you'll have McFarland Clinic that'll draw a lot of people throughout the day, but having the food and beverage anchor and the big grand plaza as you walk into the facility will be very attractive and a great accommodation when we think about the connection between Jack Trice Stadium and the football games and fans connecting, especially on Jack Trice Way. But as you get into CyTown, you're going to come upon spaces that allow people to gather, shop, play. You know, and what we're showing here is that first entryway is a couple of areas which they've characterized as play. And one of the ideas that they have is a very large, oversized playground for children to gather throughout the day. And they've talked about it being what we call Cy's House, which would be a connection of, quote, birdhouses that are all branded in a way that works with Cy and our great cardinal and gold colors. And so we look at this being a credible destination for families throughout the work week. You know, when moms or dads want to bring their children down and hang out in the space during the day. In addition, as you walk further up the spine of CyTown, you'll get into what we call the shopping area, because underneath every one of these buildings on the ground level will be retail space. So this will be a big area for shopping, and you'll come up to what will be the artwork, which we envision to be a big oversized cyclone. And then you can see here, as we move into the next space past the shopping, a really unique idea that we've copied from the Dallas Cowboys, but it will be a replica Jack Trice Stadium field that fans can gather on as you're here at CyTown. It'll be a great place to host events, but it'll be an opportunity for kids throughout the day to throw a ball around or just people to gather. And then that area will also then funnel into as you can see here, funneling up towards the Sukup silo, which will then be a great gathering space for outdoor events, concerts, pep rallies, homecoming, numerous things that we can do throughout game watches, things we can do throughout the year to continue to program that space. So what comes next? What I think when we talk about what comes next, I have to go back and look at where we've come from. And what CyTown really is, it goes back to 1954, when James Hilton had the incredible idea to build the Iowa State Center. He was so forward thinking, and I'm sure back in those days people maybe thought he was a little crazy, similar to how some people probably think we are today. But what was amazing was the vision he had. But what's neat about this is you see that it's 1954 that he introduced the idea. It wasn't until the late 60s and early 70s that the buildings actually were built. So now we fast forward and say in 2019, we had another crazy idea, right? We were going to build CyTown out in this space. And it took several years, including the time that we were shut down for COVID. But in 2022 is when we announced that CyTown was actually going to happen. And then in 2023, we began the infrastructure. And so for the last 2 years, we've redone all the parking lots, raised it up out of the floodplain, put in all the infrastructure so that we can now go vertical. In 2023 in the fall, we announced that McFarland was going to be the anchor tenant. And in 2024, we brought Goldenrod on as the developer. And now we find ourselves in the winter of 25, and we are at a spot where the Board of Regents now have approved the legal structure and the contracts for Goldenrod to move forward. And we're here today sharing with all of you, like, what comes next? You know, the great drawings, the renderings, the ideas of what it's going to entail. And then what will happen now over the next 2 years is a couple things. Number one, Goldenrod's going to spend probably the next 6 months doing two things. One, vetting through potential contractors that are going to help build all of this. And number two, talking to potential tenants. And so as we work our way through that over the next 6 months, we'll eventually get to a spot where we can answer a lot of the questions about, well, who are going to be the food and beverage providers? The reason we don't have that today is we didn't have them fully approved with the regents. Now they can go out and start talking to the tenants, talking about what it's going to cost, where they'd be located, how this is all going to come together. So what you'll see next is this spring, McFarland Clinic will break ground on the far southwest corner. And then throughout the year, Goldenrod will continue to work through with contractors, with potential tenants, and hopefully by the fall of 25, you'll start to see them break ground. But the big piece of construction will probably happen in 2026. 26 will be a big year for a lot of construction in the CyTown space. The goal is by the fall of 27 to have CyTown up and running. So very exciting times. We're so pleased to be able to share this with you and give you the sneak preview before it went public. This is a big moment in time for Iowa State. This is going to be a major attraction, not only for the university, but also for the city of Ames and for Central Iowa, because it's taking an idea that James Hilton had in the 1950s, which was so revolutionary, was so forward thinking, and bringing it back to life. Because over the last 70 some years, you know, the project, that area has become outdated, it had become deferred maintenance, there was just a lot of issues. And this project is now allowing us to bring life back to that space and create what Dr. Hilton really had for a vision, that this would be a major draw for the central part of the state of Iowa. So we look forward to continuing to keep you updated, but we wanted to be able to share with you today the initial vision of what CyTown will look like when it opens in the fall of 27. Thanks for your time today, and go Cyclones!